I'm delighted today to be host of a very valuable webinar on building trust and influence, social media tips for today's health professionals. Euphorma is, in addition to working in the NHS in Nottingham, is a TikTok entrepreneur, and she has a lot of experience of what to do and what not to do on TikTok and other platforms. And I'm delighted to invite Euphorma to give a presentation to teach us all about how we should behave and what we should do when we want to educate people on social media and don't want to get into trouble. Euphorma, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Angus. Thank you for having me. My name is Bafoma and my surname is pronounced Okbeho. It's usually difficult for most people to pronounce. So today I'm going to be going through a session on building trust and influence. So social media tips for today's health professionals. So if you're currently a health professional and you're looking for how to build trust and influence, you should stick around for this webinar. So I'm currently a digital health projects manager. I work in one of the NHS trusts in Nottingham. My experience is in healthcare, so with trusts and ICBs and the public sector transformation initiatives. And my particular expertise spans around transformation and change, health information systems, IT infrastructure, product management, and agile project delivery. And I would just like to say that I am speaking as a digital health professional and not as an employee of a trust. Now, if you look over to the left of my slides, those are my statistics on the social media platforms where I share information. So currently on TikTok, I have 4,000 plus followers and 13,000 plus likes. And on LinkedIn, you don't really count likes and followers, but that's how my LinkedIn looks like. Now, I'm going to go through the reasons and why it matters to build trust and influence. I'll start with the reasons. So the first reason is everybody Googles information. As a health professional, I'm sure you will have encountered a service user or a patient that has said, I Googled this information or I checked this and that's not what Google said. We've all encountered that scenario. So one of the reasons to build trust and influence is to have it at the back of your mind that everybody's looking for information and you need to be the voice in the wilderness to be giving accurate information if you have that and if you're qualified to do so. The second reason is professionals follow you as well. So if you have a social media page, just know that other professionals are following you, people are watching you. And it takes me to my next reason is leadership is watching you as well. So your supervisor, senior management, they're looking at how you portray yourself, how you deliver the information you're delivering, and how accurate that information is. Now, this is important because credibility is currency. If people cannot draw lines or connect the dots to how credible you are, e.g., where you work, how you present yourself, your credentials, your credibility would lose value and you would not be able to build that trust and influence that you want. And why your voice is influenced. So as a health professional, you've gone to school, you've studied all these years, you're currently practicing. Your voice is going to influence certain things when you say the right information. Now, I have a lot of colleagues that are in the medical field and they taught me how to use mnemonics. And I always use it for my everyday life. So I'm going to be sharing with you my own personal mnemonics. And this is be a pro on social media. So PRO. P is for protect, R is for respect, O is for honor. For protect, whenever you're in social media, you need to protect NHS and patient confidentiality always. No matter how interesting or insightful a case study is that you want to present, always make sure that Patient information is not shared. If you must, it has to be pseudonymized or anonymized. So don't just put out patient information like that because you're going to breach confidentiality. And when you're doing videos, make sure there's no patient data showing around you, like in the background, or maybe someone talking on another call, or you're wearing the uniform, or you're wearing your ID card, or your background screen is not showing, because those are telltale signs for people that have malicious intent to attack where you work or make a false complaint or a truthful complaint to where you work. So you need to be very careful about your environment whenever you're saying something and you're recording yourself. The second one is respect. So you need to represent your role and the values of healthcare. Whenever you're bringing out your opinions or airing your own opinions, make sure you're saying it with disclaimers. Like in the beginning of my presentation, I said, I'm saying this as a digital health professional and not as an employee of my trust. Because just in case something goes wrong, only myself is liable and I'm standing behind what I am saying. So my trust doesn't get dragged into a legal battle or litigations or whatever it is. So I'm respecting my employer by doing that. And that's something I encourage other people to do, except your employer has given you express rights or express permissions to do so. Make sure you remove it from your content. And most people have it, some don't, but always check with your trust and your board that you're following social media policies. Most trusts do have one. Third one is own it. Whenever you're showing up online, whether it's written, physical, whatever it is, make sure you ask yourself, would I be able to say this in a conference? So this also ties back to how you're respectful. Don't use vulgar words. Don't use words that are derogatory or racist. Make sure you're saying words that can be presented to everybody and would not offend every person that will come across your content. Now, when it comes to TikTok and LinkedIn, they're two different platforms and they behave in certain ways. They have different audiences, and not a lot of people know that. They believe if you're posting on one place, you can duplicate the content, and that's not true. In my experience, I've seen that when you're on TikTok, people that are generally watching your content are curious learners, aspiring NHS staff, career changers, and students. Whereas on LinkedIn, this is where you see NHS leaders, recruiters, your peers, organizations. So it's a bit more corporate, it's a bit more formal on LinkedIn. What you should expect and what you should deliver on TikTok is real talk, bite-sized tip, not too long, not too wordy. Put a bit of humor in it and make it as authentic as you can. Show your personality more on TikTok. Whereas on LinkedIn, this is where you put your suit and tie forward, be more professional in your speech, be more professional in your appearance. So this is for strategic insights, your wins, your lessons you've learned from your workplace, and thought leadership in general. In terms of content guide on TikTok, the tone is more conversational. It's more fun, it's more behind the scenes. Take, for example, how you're reading towards an exam or how you're doing your research for a particular software you want to implement. Whereas for LinkedIn, it's more clear, confident, and mission driven. So for LinkedIn, this is where you put your finished, confirmed ideas on LinkedIn. Then in terms of value, what you would want to present as content on TikTok are around ideas such as how to get started in NHS digital or why should I choose nursing. So this is where you answer questions or do how-to informationals or videos. And on LinkedIn, this is where you share lessons learned. For example, lessons from launching an API system, what you learned from go live. Then in terms of visuals, because of how the platform of TikTok is designed, it favors vertical videos and it favors trends and it also favors low fee authenticity. This is where it comes to the sound that you put behind your videos. For LinkedIn, it's more headshots, event photos. So when you go to a conference, you attend a conference, you're speaking at a conference, those are the type of pictures that LinkedIn really pushes. Then having graphics and articles as well, long articles. What you should absolutely not do for both platforms is overshare clinical settings. So do not record a video in a ward where you have patients that may pass by or patients in the background. That's a big no-no. And don't copy and paste content that you've made on TikTok or LinkedIn because they're two different audiences, like I explained earlier. Now, this is my own personal platform strategy. If you're happy, and I welcome people using it as well. And again, I use the mnemonic is the CPR formula. So C for consistent, P for personal, R for real. Consistent is whenever you're trying to build trust and influence, you need to be consistent in posting. You can't post 1 month and post 2 months after. It doesn't show credibility, it doesn't show consistent, and I can't trust you. But if I know you post every Tuesday once a week or every Wednesday twice a week, I can follow your journey, I can follow your information, and I trust that by this time on a certain day, a certain week, I'm going to see information from this person. That is how you build trust. In terms of personal, weave your identity into your content, make it relatable. Personally, I sometimes weave the fact that I'm a mom, I weave the fact that I'm trying to upskill into a different role, and I also weave in the fact that I'm very curious about certain things. Sometimes it's not related to digital health, but I include it in my content so that I come across as a regular human being. It's not every time I'm talking about digital health. That's almost like a robot. So I weave in those aspects of my life. This if you really want to. Some people don't want to bring in their personal life, and that's not what I'm trying to push by saying be personal. But make it relatable, make me feel like you're a regular human being. In terms of real, don't use filters. This is for your appearance. People feel you need to use filters to make yourself look a certain way, blur your flaws or whatever it is. My issue with that is when I see that I'm used to that face, and when I see you in a conference and I'm seeing two different faces, the trust reduces, and we're all about building trust and influence. So come the way you are. I'm not saying be unpresentable, but really, really back when it comes to using filters. And you need to also bring in value and your voice. Is one thing stating statistics and not having a link to refer people back to say this is where I got my information from. So whatever information you're presenting, there always has to be a backlink to show this is the original information. If it's from someone else's content, always credit the person. So be real. And that is how you build trust and influence on social media. Thank you very much.
Euphoma, that is great. I do want you had two acronyms. The
Yes.
first acronym was for PRO. Can you just remind us what PRO was?
Okay, so
Apart from
PRO
being
is
professional.
okay. PRO is how to be a pro on social media. So the P is for professional, the R is for respect, and the O is for own it. The second one is CPR. The C is for consistent. The P is for personal. Then the R is for being real.
Excellent. That's really good. I'm delighted that Jan is here because Jan does go on social media quite a lot. And I think he will resonate with the recommendations that you have made about the times to post. Particularly, we are slightly, as professionals, more interested in LinkedIn. TikTok, you showed the difference. But Jan, if you'd like to come in, and you post fairly regularly because I get the post.
Yes.
Would you tell me how you choose when you post, usually on LinkedIn?
Usually I post about in the Netherlands, it's about between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. That's in England, it's even 1 hour earlier. But
Yeah.
no, and that's because then the post has a long time on LinkedIn, and I usually also start sending direct mails, so in mails to people I know to notice that I posted something new on LinkedIn. So I create a lot of likes and comments, and if you create likes and comments in the first 1 or 2 hours, it will be more spread on the internet.
Yeah. I'd like to come back now to Euphoma. You mentioned Euphoma on TikTok, that you use music. Do you know the regulations about using music that has been produced by others and is effectively copyrighted? My impression is that TikTok users kind of ignore that because they're only giving short sections of music. What is your view on that, Euphoma?
So my view on that is within TikTok, there are specific sounds you can use that are actually copyright free. So you just need to take your time and select that specific sound so that if your content leaves TikTok to another place, that means the video won't be taken down because of copyright issues. It will be copyright free. So there are actually sounds that are copyright free on TikTok that you can use.
Yeah. For those of you who want to know the official guidelines, I have posted on the chat for everyone the guidelines for social media from both the General Medical Council in the UK and from the Nursing and Midwifery Council. And I strongly recommend, depending on whether you're a nurse or a doctor or a social worker, that you look at the guidelines for doctors, the GMC ones. For nurses and social workers, it's worthwhile looking at the Nursing and Midwifery Council guidelines. They are useful, and you can get into quite serious trouble if you don't follow the guidelines that have been laid down by our peers. So please consider that, because it is actually quite important. Andrea is in Romania, and Andrea is a regular attender at our webinars, so it's lovely to have you here, Andrea. Do you use social media much as a public health consultant? Do you use it for helping your patients, or are you learning how to use it as a public health doctor?
I have to confess that I used to be more active in the past. With a current job, with my current job, I don't have that much time to post, appropriate, deep subjects, as it were. There was a time only when I did a chain of postings related to professional regulations, because I'm a registered professional in 2 countries, and regulations actually differ slightly. Obviously, the main rules are the same as everywhere, and Romania is also a member of the European Union, so we do have a digital act that we use in terms of how to use social media. But I don't see patients, so but I'm aware, I'm astute from that point of view, that if you have any individual patients, you should be very, very aware of what you are actually talking about, whether it's in writing or whether it's a video or whether it's a picture, or confidentiality needs to be stewarding, really. and
It
anonymity
does.
and so on.
You, Forma, you gave a very good tip, which I hadn't come across before. Always take your hospital badge off or your professional badge off before you go on social media, unless it's directly related to why you're there. And people do get into trouble for having their hospital badge on and finding that suddenly the hospital is contacted because they saw you on social media and they try to get hold of you through the hospital. Hospital doesn't like that to happen, do they?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I agree. I agree because some people argue that, oh, people can't really see the name clearly. And that's where I tell people that in this day and age, even though it's just 2 letters or 3 letters, or the background is easy, if person really wants to find you or the person has malicious intent, they would find that information. So best avoid having that in the public. Something I also wanted to touch on following this conversation is on topic of trust and influence. The reason why I encourage people that are professionals to, if you can, post out correct and legitimate information is because there's a lot of disinformation these days. People are just posting all types of things, and people are finding it hard to filter through which information is which. So whenever I find a professional that actually is credible, I encourage them to please post your information. A few tips. You never really know who is looking at it and saying, "Oh, I didn't know that." Because there's a midwife I follow on TikTok, and she posts about maternity care for Black women. And some of her tips are tips that I didn't even realize. I wasn't taught when I was pregnant because you do this maternity online classes. They didn't teach us that as a Black woman. The apps weren't enough. So having a professional say that actually helped me. So imagine if she said, "Oh no, I don't want to post about that." I wouldn't have known any of that. So if you're a professional, as little as you can, even though you don't post, comment or engage with content because your little professional information can save someone else because there are lots of people putting out rubbish. So if you can even spend your time countering disinformation, that's going to be helpful.
Now, in the background, Suhail is working very hard, but I just want to ask Suhail about using social media in Pakistan. Now, Suhail is based in the UK, but he has very strong links with Pakistan, and that's why he set up telemedicine in Pakistan during COVID. But you've used social media quite a lot in Pakistan, haven't you, Suhail?
I think social media has almost no boundaries. So if you put some content in Pakistan from England, the laws of both countries apply on you. So you cannot offend people who watch you. So there is no boundary in social media, Prof, in my view. Whether you put content in Pakistan or Canada, it must not offend the views, ethnicity, the cultural values, wherever it's going. I always follow that. Regarding the technicalities and regarding the size, for example, if you put a large video with a high resolution, in Pakistan, some areas it may not play. So social media has the ability to scale it up on YouTube. But again, in some countries, because of firewall, the scaling of the video does not work. So I always put a smaller quality of video when I want a wider message. But on LinkedIn, when I want a specific message, it can be 1080 or high resolution when it wants to go to only professionals. So there is a lot behind this. And I think maybe in some program, we can go through the selection, the technical selection of the media for appropriate dissemination.
What I do is if I have a short video, I will put it on social media or on WhatsApp. WhatsApp has a compression facility within it, which takes your video and makes it much smaller, but it has a maximum capacity for 100 megabytes. So you can't put anything more than 100 megabytes on WhatsApp. So the alternative is to do what I do and upload a video onto YouTube and then give a YouTube link to the video, and that allows you to see a high quality video, and YouTube provides this as a free service to you, as long as you can cope with the adverts. Have you any experience of doing that, Suhail?
Prof, I've used YouTube for training people, for advertisement as well, yes, and sometimes only to connect with people. I believe that YouTube is probably one of the most wonderful thing that has happened to technology, because people get free education, and I find this amazing feature that people who could not afford education now are able to get information through YouTube.
Yes.
It is the second largest search engine in the world after Google. And the content inside it, there is a YouTube studio, which means that you can have a multimodal content. You can put images, you can put videos, and you can all stitch them together. And then if you don't want any video, a voice, your own voice, you can put a background on that. And the most interesting thing I find on YouTube is a faceless YouTube channel, which means that you don't have to be on YouTube in person, but you can create content and run across the slides or a background image or a video and get equal dissemination. Content is the king. People don't want to see your photo after a certain while. The video of the person does show authenticity, that I own it and I have the heart and confidence to come on stage and say, look, I said this. And that is very authentic in the beginning. Yeah. But later on, you can run faceless YouTube channels.
Okay. So let's go back to Euphoma, who is our TikTok star. How many followers do you have, Euphoma?
According to my last count, it was 4,645, I guess.
So that labels you as an influencer.
No, not just yet.
And you
not just yet. No, people with more followers than me.
For those of us who are a bit older, what does an influencer actually mean? Because there are many people out there, particularly on X and TikTok, who claim to be influencers. They seem to be getting very rich. How do they do that?
Okay, so how influencing works is let me use myself as an example. For example, I build my following up to a certain number. But these days, numbers don't count. What counts is the community you built around those numbers. So let's say I build a community of aspiring digital health leaders and people that want to grow in digital health or already in digital health. That is a community. Now, I become an influencer where a company like, let's say, Microsoft comes to me and says, we want to advertise this new course or these new certifications. Can you tell your community? So I say, okay, for a fee. So I tell my community that, Microsoft has this fantastic certification that they're about to do. Is going to help you in your digital health journey. And my community trusts what I'm saying, because over time, I've built that trust, I've built that influence, and they now, off the back of my influence and my trust, they buy that product. That is influence. And for that influence, Microsoft is going to pay me a lot of money for advertising that information. And it's usually cheaper for them to do that as opposed to advertising it on TV or on billboards. So that's why a lot of companies are gravitating towards going with influencers as opposed to putting it out there in the billboards, because these days everybody's on their phone. So yeah.
So just to clarify that, you are not an influencer, seriously. and you don't make any money doing influencing, or you might make a little bit of money, but it's minor compared with what the professional influencer does. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, it is. But the thing is, I don't make any money because on TikTok you can enable the feature for making money, and you need to actually even register to be in certain programs to actually make money. So if you don't do that, you won't make money. You just build the followership. So if you're ready, you can now enable that feature and actually start making money. But currently, I don't have any of that enabled.
I am affected by my 9 grandchildren who all use social media and all know far more about social media than I do. One of my granddaughters is just amazing, and whenever she has a task to do, and she does lots of tasks, maybe she will build a guinea pig run, or she might crochet a new dress. She just goes on social media or YouTube and finds out how to do it from there. It's quite amazing how versatile you can become as a person if you learn how to use both YouTube and social media in the way that they have developed. Suhail, how much have you learned from social media that has really benefited you and your practice?
I think when it comes to professional practice, we have to be very careful that how far we stretch down to advertising. I pick up the word of influential advertising, which is different than corporate advertising. When you're teaching and you're being recognized for your teaching, you're also saying that I am good in my work. That is advertisement. So that influential advertisement is an important way to be known, but be respected for what you do. Now, the most successful marketing is when you're not selling something, but people are buying it. That is influential marketing. So you go up there and you say, look, I do it this way. I have solved my problems. But you're not saying that go and buy my software or something like that. You're just saying that, look, it is helping me. I am the brain behind it. I know how to do it. But people want to come to you for advice. And the advice could be actually buying your piece of software. In medical side, again, if you are giving medical advice free of charge on the programs, let's say, Prof, yourself, you're very able in shoulder surgery. If you talk about shoulder problems in young people, in middle people, in old people, and you just come and talk about it, you're basically influencing, catching attention of people who have shoulder problems. They say, let's go and talk to the prof. He knows about it. Influential marketing. And I totally agree with the former that influential marketing, that takes a lot more authenticity, a lot more professional experience to be there.
And Jan, if we can comment on your very strong abilities to use social media. We know that you have developed you have popularized open air, and you've done a great job with that across the whole of Europe. Tell me about your experience of developing those skills.
Yes, in the beginning, I thought LinkedIn, I'm focusing only on LinkedIn, that LinkedIn is a good tool to create a network. And I started to build a network to create knowledge, to learn about all kind of developments regarding open air. So I started building up my network, inviting famous people. So if I ask somebody else, will you join my network? Then they start looking who is in that network. And if you have some really good names in that network, they will easily say, okay, I joined that network because it's interesting. And then you can also follow groups. that are focusing on special developments in data availability, in interoperability, in data science, and then you build knowledge as well as a network. And then it's important that you find out how the algorithms work. Algorithm in LinkedIn is built on several items, and how better you suit these demands, these items, the much more your messages will be distributed. And that's the way how I started. And I also invited a lot of people to to create webinars where I then organized well-known people in this on this item, on this subject, and every time they tell new developments. So people get used that if we have a webinar organized, then it's very interesting to learn more about innovations in data availability. And in that way, like Suhail said, then you create that people start to ask you if they have questions, if they want to know something, if they want to organize something, if they want to have a study journey to Sweden or Finland. They ask me, can you help me find people to give presentations there, or to talk to or discuss with the people. And then you build the network stronger and stronger. But it all starts in the beginning to build a good basic network. I think Suhail has a large network, so he knows that very well, I think. So it's very important that it's a solid basis from where you start. And then it's also important to involve your surrounding people, that they join you in all the activities. So if you put something very interesting on LinkedIn, a post, then it's important that you find some people that are liking or commenting or sharing your message. And the more people do that in the first 1 or 2 hours, the better this algorithm is, and the more people will receive this post of you. So
thanks very much indeed.
I had some posts. Sometimes, when you are not well prepared, it may be a few hundred viewers, but I also had posts from 60, 70,000 viewers.
And for the audience, you are based in the Netherlands, on the boundary between the Netherlands and Germany.
Yes, that's right.
In fact, we have an audience from all over the world, and it's amazing what can happen. I'd like to go back now to Euphorma, because Euphorma, you gave a lovely presentation. We're going to wind up now, and I would love you to give some final take-home messages. Can you perhaps just repeat your acronym PRO and CPR? Remind us exactly what they mean, and give us a final recommendation before we sign off.
Okay, so my 2 acronyms are PRO. P is for protect. So you protect patient and service user information. You protect your organization if you work at one. The R is for respect. I'm going to borrow from Dr. Suhail to say respect people's views and opinions when you're talking about information as well, and represent properly where you're from. So professionally represent yourself. The O is for own it. So whenever you're saying anything on social media, remember, can you repeat that as a conference? Can you repeat that in the boardroom? It needs to be professional. The diction needs to be right. It needs to be factual. So make sure if anybody asks you, is that true? You have information to reference what you're saying. The second one is CPR. So C, be consistent. The key to building trust and influence is people need to see you consistently, not every day, but every other day, so that they can build relatability. The P is for, oh, I've forgotten my own acronym. So C is for consistent. P is for
Personal, was it?
personal. Yes, thank you very much. I think because I'm trying to say it all at the same time. So P is for personal. So weave in your identity, make yourself relatable. People need to recognize that this information is actually coming from a real life professional. So make it as personal as you can, but not too personal. Then the R is for real. Make sure that is real value that you're bringing, real information, real facts that you're bringing. Then my final word is, as you're positioning yourself and building trust and influence on social media, also know that you're going to have to combat misinformation under your post, because there's sometimes I post something and there's someone that's trying to counter it, and by the time I put in my facts and reference things, they recognize that okay, this is actually true information. And if by any chance you come across information in your field that you see that is not right, I feel it's a duty to correct it as a medical professional or a health professional, because that is life-changing information that someone can pick up and run with it. And also, putting out information is positioning yourself as a thought leader. I mean, you're building influence, you're building trust, but when constantly people know you for something. So there's one thing I tell people that are trying to get into content creation: why are you doing it in the first place? What do you want to be known for? Should people look at your face and think, oh, surgery? So people look at your face and think, oh, this girl that talks about digital health. People should look at your face and think of something, not, I'm not really sure what this person or this professional is saying. So pick a niche, remember why you're doing it, and do the right thing. And that's how I end my talk.
Nufoma, a wonderful presentation. Thank you. I would like to just remind the viewers that it is really important when you're on social media as a professional that you treat the screen as if it was a human being. And you must not say to the screen something that you are not prepared to say to somebody face to face, because it is really important that you remain professional, particularly in healthcare, where we are trusted and we must maintain that trust. So always remember, be kind, be honest, and imagine that that camera in front of you is a human being, and be nice to them. And thank you very much for listening to this webinar. It was great having you with us. And thank you particularly to you, Foma, but also the other contributors, Suhail, Jan, and Andrea. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.